Okay, hello, my name is Kellyanne Padello, and this is my friend Danielle.
Hi.
She is a speech pathologist at Wiley Elementary and Central Middle. So before we go into my interview, I'm going to have Danielle do a little introductory for us.
Hi, I'm Danielle Riddle Easley. I work at Wiley Charter or Public Charter Elementary School and Central Middle School, and I'm a speech language pathologist.
So I'm going to be asking Danielle some questions, basically regarding how she and her colleagues use the SET framework and how they also use the assistive technology in their daily lessons and in their classrooms. So, first off, Danielle, are you familiar with the SETT framework? If yes, can you please share briefly what it is and what it means to you? If no, please explain briefly of what you think it is.
I'm familiar with the term. We don't really call it that at the school. I mean, I've studied it in school, but the SETT framework, the SETT framework is basically just us coming together as a team at the school and discussing the students' needs and how the assistive technology will help them and benefit them and what their needs are and what exactly they need and how that assistive technology and what type of assistive technology will work for them and what they will need and how it'll benefit their education.
Okay. So, would you say you utilize assistive technology in your classroom and with your students?
So we utilize assistive technology every single day in speech. So I use it for many of my students. We use it for I mean, I could go on a tangent on assistive technology. So I use it for nonverbal students. I use it for kids that are verbal. I use it to facilitate their speech. I use it for kids that cannot speak. I use it for the kids that cannot speak. We use the iPad that have the AAC, the Alternative and Augmentative Communication Device on it. And it's got pictures, and they press the button, and it says what they're feeling or what they want. Like, for example, if they like for one of my students at Wiley, he is nonverbal. He has Down syndrome, and he's nonverbal. So we're working on right now what he wants. So it's got a board of all the things that he wants. So if, say, he wants water, he needs to go to the bathroom, he'll press that, and that expresses to us that he needs that. And then, for example, I have another student at Wiley who is verbal, but her speech intelligibility is really low, so she can talk, but you can't really understand what she's saying. So what we use hers for is she creates sentences on her iPad. So she'll press, like, say, if she wants to play a game, she'll press I want to play a game, and she'll create the sentence on her own. So she's more higher functioning. So there's tiers to it. So you can use it to create the whole sentence for you, or you can use it to just press one word, or you can create your own sentence on your own. So there's different levels to the assistive technology. So AT is incredible and highly recommended.
What tools do you... Oh, I guess you kind of explained that. My
question I can go further into it, but
okay, I was going to say, what tools do you use to help accommodate your students' needs, besides the ones you just mentioned?
So tools that we use to accommodate our needs, their needs is, for example, some of our kids, the iPad with the AT device, some of them have what's it called? They have a case on it. Like if they have a hard time, like their motor skills are weaker, they have like a thicker case on it to help them hold it. And then some kids, like if they have fairly good motor skills, they just have the regular iPad case, but some have to have the thicker iPad case. And then some, that's like the main example I can think of, but other ones, the biggest tools that help accommodate to their needs is just the tier level, and the hierarchy is just if, like, the lower functioning, we start off with just like one word examples on the iPad, like water, bathroom, food, whatever they want. And then we go up to like pressing and it says a sentence, and then another one, like they can start creating their sentences. So there's just a hierarchy of it. So those are the different tools and accommodations. So it's really neat that you can start, it's neat that the tools, you can build their language. Like you can start from one level and just start increasing it. So those are some tools to help accommodate their needs.
Is it hard? I'm sorry, I'm going to change my question since I just thought about it. As a speech pathologist, is it hard using those types of tools with your students while working with other like gen ed teachers and special ed resource teachers? Or like, how does that work so that you guys are all on the same page?
Sometimes it can be a little difficult because some of these devices, depending on how complex they can be, it can be a little tricky having to teach usually the special education teachers are pretty good about being on top of those, but then teaching the gen ed teachers and then the STs or the one-to-ones, sometimes it's a little harder to teach them because they're not as as like trained in that field as like the SPED teachers or the speech pathologist or the other one or teachers like that. So you have to go out, I mean, you have to take extra time to teach them and go that extra mile to make sure that they know how to do it, and make sure that give them that extra training so that they can help that student know how to do it. And then also not that they're just doing, so that they're not just doing it during speech, so that they're generalizing it into the education setting, so that they're doing it outside of that, so that they're more functional and not just doing it during speech.
Okay.
So
with that being said, how do you feel your school ensures that you and your colleagues are utilizing these methods for your students?
So our school at both of our schools, or the schools I work at, are really good about ensuring that we follow the AT and that we use it, that they're really good about it, that that they provide it to us, that they give us the funding for it, and really that they just give us the funding and allow us to have it. They back us up on it. They follow through with it. If we give them the proposal to it, they follow through with us, and they ensure that we have it, and they make sure. And it goes back and forth. We have to usually go through a trial period with it. Like, for example,
see if it works.
Like, for example, one of the students I have at YLI, we're using a trial period right now with AAC to ensure, like, we proposed it to the school, but they're ensuring that we are doing a trial period to make sure that it's working before we actually purchase it. So it's really good that the DOE actually provides us like the trial period iPad. So they actually give us that, like, not a free iPad like the DOE owns it, but they provide us like a trial period for it. So it's awesome that they do that. So that's how they ensure that we're following through with it.
Sorry, also throwing in another one.
That's okay.
How do you feel, or how should I word this? Since you obviously have to go into IEPs and stuff, is it hard to convince parents that these tools that they're using in school are useful? And do they agree or not agree with what you bring up in the IEPs regarding the AT?
So that one's a little bit tricky because it can go either way. I've had some parents are all for it. They love it. They want their kid to have every opportunity to have their own voice, to whether it be they don't have a voice and they want them to be able to have a voice. They want them to have that assistive technology to provide them a voice, or whether they have a voice, but they just either have their expressive language just is so low that they can't express themselves, or their speech intelligibility is so low that they can't be understood, that they need they need the AAC device to facilitate their communication. They want anything to help their child communicate. But there's also the other side of that spectrum of the parents that don't want that assistive technology they feel that it might hinder their communication. They feel that it might take away their voice. They feel that they may use the iPad, depend on the iPad, and not use their voice. Now, those are usually the parents that the kids can speak, and that those are usually the ones that can speak, but have a hard time, like when we propose that they should have the AAC or the AT, they usually are on the fence about it or against it because they don't want it to take away their voice or for them to lose their voice in a sense. But in my opinion, I've never seen it take away from a child's communication. I've only seen it facilitate and propel their communication.
So with that being said, what would you think would be the most challenging part about incorporating a assistive technology with your students?
The most challenging part I've seen with incorporating the AT with my students, and I hate to say this because it's not the most, I guess, politically correct or the most fun thing to say, but a lot of the AT, I mean, there are some free apps that are really great, but a lot of the really good apps that you can get, the assistive technology that we use, are fairly expensive. So that's something that's not really talked about a lot. But the most challenging part of incorporating it is, I mean, you've got that trial period, but then once the time comes around, someone has to pay for it.
Yeah.
And usually the school will pay for it, and like you have it at the school, but then you've got to consider, like, if they're doing so well with it at school,
they should have it at home.
They should have it at home. And a lot of insurances don't necessarily cover that, and it's like, well, how are we going to get that at home? And a lot of parents don't have just an extra couple $100 or I mean, if they don't have you've got to think you've got to have an iPad, and then you've got to buy the couple $100 app too. So it's like, I'd say that's the most challenging part of incorporating the AT with the students. Cause I mean, it is challenging for them to teach them how to do it. But the most challenging part, I think, is just the money issue, in my opinion.
And trying to incorporate it.
Yeah, that's my opinion on that one.
Okay. So do you feel that the assistive technology is effective in your classroom? Explain why or why not.
I think it is incredible. Yes, I think it is very effective. I couldn't think of what the word was, but I think it is extremely effective. I think that assistive technology is great. I think that it only propels assistive technology, it's your assignment showing that you could interview all these different, like, SPED teachers, occupational therapists, but in my field, in speech language pathology, AT, assistive technology, is all, I've never seen it be bad. I've seen it only be effective. Assistive technology is great. It's been effective, and I've only seen it be effective.
Okay. How do you feel you could better utilize assistive technology in your school or classroom?
I feel that we could better, or I could better, or me, we, anybody, we could better utilize assistive technology just by being more educated on it and having more funding for it. If we, not just me or speech pathologists or SPED teachers, but general education teachers, just everybody in general had a more general knowledge of assistive technology, and we could implement it more, especially for those kids that need it. I think that would we could better utilize it, and it would be more beneficial for those kids that do need it. And we could use it. It could be generalized more in the classroom than as opposed to it just be used during speech. Because that's what I see a lot of times is like we use it and they do really well with it in speech, but the regular or the general gen ed teachers or their STs or their one-to-ones don't really know how to use it as well as they should, so they don't implement it as much in the regular classroom or throughout the day, so it's not being used as much as it should be, and it's not like they could be progressing
basically just
more.
like that hour or whatever they have with you, and then when they go back to their gen ed, just
yes, it's kind of just they don't use it as much as they can or they could, and I feel like they could progress even more with it.
It's funny you say that because I feel like that's also a thing with like special ed teachers. From what I learned in like working in the resource centers, it's just like whatever you do, you know, and try to help accommodate your student is totally washed down the window when they go to their gen ed teachers, just because their teacher just doesn't even consider the fact that they need that additional support, you know, and it sucks because a lot of schools don't even have the funding for a one-to-one, or they're not even labeled as a severe case yet, so they don't have that privilege of having a one-to-one, but they're just stuck there with the gen ed class, and, you know, they just, you know what I mean? And it's so frustrating because, like, he doesn't understand what to do or as quickly as the other kids do, but yet you're expecting him to excel. It's mind-boggling. Can you share a personal experience of how assistive technology had benefited one of your students?
I could share a lot. I mean, let me try to think of. There is, gosh, there's so. I mean, I'm not trying to brag, but I mean, there's so many just from my experience this year being in Hawaii. Like, there's been so many kids that have benefited from assistive technology. I can think of a boy with autism at my middle school. I can think of a boy with Down syndrome at my elementary school. They have excelled with assistive technology. It's just, it has given them a voice that they haven't had before. Like, the boy with autism, he would, like, there's, for example, one simple button that we created on his iPad for him to have says, "I need more time, please." Like, he has a visual timer, and, like, if he wants to do something, like, if he wants to play with his blocks for a couple more, like 5 more minutes.
Right.
Like, if he he was not able to verbally express that. Well, now that we have that button, all he needs to press is, "I need more time, please." Well, he presses that, and that avoids him having a complete meltdown. And he's in 7th grade, so mind you, doing that has avoided us having, like, and he's a pretty big boy, so, I mean, it takes a couple people to calm him down. So, I mean, it avoids just that one simple button avoids a huge conflict. So that's just one example. And then the other boy with Down syndrome, he's nonverbal. Legally, he's visually impaired. He's legally blind, but he can, like, use the iPad. He can still see it, and he has been able to actually start using it and identify who's, like, whenever I see him, he'll press it and say, "Hi, Miss Danielle."
Oh, okay.
And, like, he can do that now. He can, like, say what he wants. Like, if he wants the iPad, he can go on iPad. Or if he wants music, he can press "I want music," and he can go on there and he can press what song he wants. Like, one of his, I can't remember what the name of the song is, but he wants this certain song every time, and he presses the song. Like, he, like, has started, like, it's crazy, like, just teaching him how to do that, and it's avoided him having tantrums too. Like, it's just simple things like that avoid huge conflicts. So
with that being said, do you feel that AT in the long run gives the students the confidence they need to excel not only in your classroom or your time with them, but also their other subjects? And that doesn't even, like, include, like, or limit academically, like interpersonally, you know, like, do you feel it just gives them a little bit of boost of confidence overall?
Most definitely. I mean, if it's gonna, not only is it gonna positively affect their education, but it's gonna affect their social life as well. Because if they can express themselves, if they can not just express themselves, but if they can do things academically using their AAC or their AT I'm sorry, I'm mixing up AAC and AT intertwine in speech pathology, so it's basically the same thing, but I mean just different names, but AT. But sorry, I got those two mixed up. Will you repeat your question again?
Oh, so my question was just, do you feel in general that by using the
social,
AT,
the social, yes, okay, so it'll definitely benefit them in their education as well as their social, because it's going to help them not only in their education, but they're going to be able to express themselves socially, and they're going to be able to express their feelings. They're going to be expressing their wants, their needs, their emotions, their whatever, and they're going to be able to communicate with others, not just
not understand. And because I even worked with a student at Pro City Highlands Elementary last semester. He only spoke Chinese. And, you know, no matter how hard you try to accommodate and use other strategies to help him try and solve things, it just didn't matter, because at the end of the day, he just didn't understand what Y meant, or you know what I mean, or what a W meant. Like, it just didn't make sense to him. So I can definitely see how expressing yourself and like knowing certain things can definitely help overall in a student's life. Last question. As a future educator, do you have any advice for me in regards to the AT and just in general working with, you know, students who have special needs? And
so in regards to AT, I would say just continue learning about it, be educated, and I mean, I would always push for it. If you feel that your child needs it, I would just explore the options of it and always try. I mean, if you think the kid or the student is in need of it, I would definitely explore the option of it, because I've seen it benefit so many kids excel from it. And if they don't if they don't benefit from it, at least you tried. And I would just definitely keep up your education on it, and then not just in AT, but other advice is just to always stay positive, and because I mean the job can get overwhelming, because I mean there's a lot going on, and I would just definitely stay positive and know that you're helping more kids than you know. So that would be my advice.
Well, thank you. Thank you for giving me the time to interview you. And that's all I have. So thank you. Bye.